Searching for answers after a gunman opens fire on a concert on the Las Vegas Strip. The nation mourning victims tonight and a massive show of support for survivors.
Yeah, we've had compromises all different sizes. It's usually the size whatever a human can get through.
Moving forward with President Trump's plans to secure the border, what the prototypes could reveal about his border wall project.
In the beginning, we'll have a safety driver on board to make sure that we don't run into any of the students. But eventually, we will take out the safety drivers, and then we'll do it.
No hands behind this wheel, a look at driverless testing in San Diego, plus how planners and academics try to imagine a world where cars drive themselves. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Amita Sharma, filling in for Ebony Monet. The President and First Lady Melania Trump led a moment of silence at the White House today to honor the victims killed at a music festival last night in Las Vegas. The shooting was the deadliest in modern U.S. history, with 59 dead and more than 500 injured in the shooting and the panic that ensued. In his comments this morning, President Trump called the shooting an act of pure evil.
In times such as these, I know we are searching for some kind of meaning in the chaos, some kind of light in the darkness. The answers do not come easy.
Investigators combed through debris today left behind in the chaos of last night, while officials continued removing bodies from the scene. Police warned that identifying all the victims will be a long and laborious process. Just after 10 o'clock last night, about 22,000 concertgoers were watching Jason Aldean's performance when what some thought were fireworks could be heard over the music. Police say a retiree living in Mesquite, Nevada, opened fire from the 32nd floor of the Mandalay Bay Hotel. Stephen Paddock killed himself before officers stormed into his room. Public records offered no hint of financial distress or criminal history. A San Diego attorney was among the people killed by the gunman. Jennifer Irvine died last night. She ran a family law and criminal defense practice. Colleagues posted about her death on Facebook, saying this was the loss of a kind, generous, and beautiful lady, and she will be missed. More than a dozen off-duty San Diego Police Department officers attended the festival on the Vegas Strip. They were not hurt. Chief Shelley Zimmerman tweeted this morning, "We are grieving with Las Vegas Metro Police and everyone affected, and grateful San Diego officers who were there are okay." There were several off-duty San Diego firefighters in Vegas as well. In a statement, Fire Chief Brian Fennessy says they are safe, and his department sends condolences and prayers to all affected by the shooting. People in Las Vegas lined up today to donate blood to help the more than 500 people who were injured in the attack. The San Diego Blood Bank says it is a part of the national network, and donations at this time, as always, are welcome. And although Las Vegas has not asked for blood to be sent, San Diego has been asked to be ready in case more blood is needed. Scripps Mercy Hospital trauma care specialist Dr. Michael Seiss says hospitals in most places are trained to handle triage for large numbers of injured people, like the emergency in Las Vegas overnight.
Well, there's a whole science to it in triage. A triage to sort through the casualties, to look for those who clearly are dead or nearly dead and can't be helped, those who are critical and need immediate care, and those who you can temporize on, and then the worried well or walking wounded, who can frequently be cared for with first aid, even in setting up a treatment station, either in a conference room or in the hospital parking lot, who don't need to come in the hospital.
Seiss says 80% of the wounded in mass casualty events either take themselves to a hospital or are transported there by other people instead of emergency personnel. The shooting in Las Vegas led California Democratic officials today to call for tightening the nation's gun laws. But during the daily briefing today, White House Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders repeatedly rebuffed questions about whether gun laws need to be stricter.
Look, this is an unspeakable tragedy. Today is a day for consoling the survivors and mourning those we lost. Our thoughts and prayers are certainly with all of those individuals. There's a time and place for a political debate, but now is the time to unite as a country.
Several tighter gun control laws are currently awaiting Governor Jerry Brown's signature, including banning firearms on campuses and barring people convicted of hate crimes from owning guns for 10 years. We'll continue to cover this story on air on KPBS Radio and online at kpbs.org. We'll have more on the investigation tonight on the PBS NewsHour. That starts at 7 o'clock right here on KPBS. The San Diego City Council today declared a homeless shelter crisis in light of the local hepatitis A outbreak. A shelter crisis was already in place in San Diego. The council declared one in May last year. The new declaration has updated numbers from the most recent count of street homelessness, and it makes reference to the Hep A outbreak. It allows some state and local laws to be suspended so the city can set up emergency shelters in public facilities. Councilman David Alvarez says some of those are ready to go.
We have public facilities that are available. We should be using them. We should not have been waiting this long. This gives complete authority, not that it was necessarily needed, but complete authority for the mayor to act on these sites and to do so with a sense of urgency.
Mayor Kevin Faulconer last month announced plans for 3 industrial tents to shelter those living on the streets. He hopes at least one will be open by December. He hasn't yet committed to using other facilities like the old Chargers training field or the former downtown library. A campground for homeless people in San Diego is set to open as early as next week. 200 new uniform tents will be set up in a city-owned parking lot at 20th and B Streets. The Alpha Project's president and CEO, Bob McElroy, is overseeing the project. He says the campground will be a safe and clean place where people will have access to bathrooms, showers, food, and medical services.
We've got a shuttle system. We're working on the logistics of that right now. We don't want people walking through neighborhoods. It's very temporary. It's only 60 to 90 days.
He says the campground will close when the city's 3 large industrial tents for homeless people open around December. Those will provide shelter beds to as many as 1,000 people. McElroy says priority to the campground will be given to the most at-risk people, including seniors and disabled, as well as mothers and children. Cyber crimes like the recent hacking at Equifax are becoming more common. Now we're learning from our media partner Newshour that malware recently infected computers at the San Ysidro school district. The malware deleted emails and forced the district to temporarily shut down some computers. Here's reporter Leonardo Castaneda with more details.
The San Ysidro School District discovered the malware attack on September 16, and it included the demand for a ransom to stop the infection of its computer systems. The district was asked to fork over about $19,000 in the digital currency known as Bitcoin. The attack affected about a month's worth of emails and forced district staff to shut down some computers. Staffers then went computer by computer, making sure each was virus-free. San Ysidro maintains a backup of all files, so they never paid any ransom. Other school districts across the country that have been hit by these ransomware attacks have not been so lucky. In Maine, a district paid $1,400 this year to get its data back from a hacker, and in South Carolina, a district paid hackers a $10,000 ransom. For KPBS, I'm Newshour's reporter, Leonardo Castaneda.
Newshour is an independently funded nonprofit partner of KPBS. Beginning January 1st, marijuana sales for recreational use will become legal in California. But under Prop 64, individual cities will have the option to ban pot sales. KPBS's Matt Hoffman tells us in Carlsbad, the City Council has voted to make sure shops won't be opening in the new year.
The new ordinance now clearly prohibits the sale of recreational and medical cannabis in Carlsbad. But personal use and cultivation are still allowed under Prop 64. City leaders say restrictions for commercial pot, though, needed to be more clearly defined.
The concern was that there would be confusion between the state and the city, about what would be allowed as far as licensing, and we just wanted to make sure that that was completely clear.
Councilwoman Cory Schumacher is the lone Democrat on the council and voted against the ban. She was in favor of an option allowing medical marijuana deliveries.
For them, it's a mobility issue. They can't actually get out of the house. They're homebound. And allowing for the commercial delivery of medical marijuana to certified patients would have been a compassionate way of allowing for something that's legal to get to our residents.
The city did make an exception for cannabis activities allowed under federal law, focusing primarily on medical research. This new ordinance goes into effect near the end of October, but it might not be there for long. Right now, a citizens' initiative that would allow for commercial sales, cultivation, and delivery is circulating in Carlsbad. That needs at least 7,000 signatures by February to qualify for the ballot to be put to voters. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
The city of San Diego is not responsible for maintaining city sidewalks, but it is still liable when people are injured using them. That's why a new sidewalk policy will go before the San Diego City Council Rules Committee this week. The new policy states that the cost of replacing unsafe concrete sidewalks will be borne entirely by the city. The only exceptions come when the damage was clearly caused by a third party or owners of adjacent property. Construction crews are already building some of the border wall prototypes along the U.S.-Mexico border near San Diego. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson has details.
Construction workers used a crane to hoist a 30-foot-tall border fence section into place just a few dozen feet north of Mexico. The operation took less than 20 minutes. Another piece of the structure was already waiting on a flatbed truck. The activity is taking place just east of San Diego's Brown Field. The demonstration project is part of the Trump administration's plan to replace and install walls between Mexico and the U.S. The plan has prompted concern from environmentalists. The Center for Biological Diversity's Brian Segui says the prototypes and the wall itself could impact sensitive habitat to the east.
Native chaparral habitat, and that provides better habitat for species like the Kino checker spot butterfly, which is highly imperiled, on the brink of extinction, coastal California gnatcatcher, and other species.
Segui says even the existing prototype construction site could have destroyed vernal pool habitat. He says the Trump administration is using exemptions that disregard U.S. environmental laws. Border agents are not as concerned about the habitat. They want to replace a border wall that's a bit more porous than initially hoped for. Officer Theron Francisco stands near the two fences that separate the U.S. and Mexico. He stands next to the 18-foot-tall secondary fence, not that shorter one a few dozen feet away.
It can easily be scaled. They can climb over it within seconds. That was not the purpose of it. The purpose was to stop traffic coming through, and it served that purpose. And this one is primarily to stop pedestrian traffic.
But this wall is not as secure as border officials would like. Francisco says people jump the first fence, run across the open space, and cut through the metal screen of the second fence. He says it happens in a matter of minutes.
We've had compromises all different sizes. It's usually the size whatever a human can get through.
Francisco says the San Diego fence was compromised more than 500 times in the past year. Replacement fences will have to be more secure. Half of the prototypes are 30-foot-tall concrete walls. The rest are made from other materials. You can see here that this prototype is already well on its way to being constructed. That's because all 8 companies that have contracts out here have to be done by October 27th. That's their deadline to be ready for testing. At the U.S.-Mexico border, Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
President Trump is set to visit Puerto Rico tomorrow. It will be nearly 2 weeks since Hurricane Maria wiped out homes and infrastructure on the island. In tonight's PBS NewsHour, residents remember the moment when the storm hit.
We were right here, my son and I, when it happened. And it happened just in a wink of an eye. When we heard the whoosh, we jumped over here and we stood like this. And I'm like, stay back, stay back. And I have him here, cuffed in here, cuffed in here. Cuffed in here, and we stood in here, we hid here, he would hide in there with his feet out, and I was staying right there like blocking him.
Was he scared? Terrified?
He was terrified.
Also, America Addicted, a closer look at the opioid epidemic and how it has changed the fabric of life in West Virginia. That's tonight on PBS NewsHour, starting at 7 o'clock right here on KPBS. There were breezy conditions across San Diego County today, but temperatures are warming up. Jeff Cornish has the timing on that in tonight's forecast.
The water year, which runs from October 1st to the very end of September, has ended, and now we're into a new water year as we look ahead to the wet season coming up in December, January, February. And as you are well aware, we had a pretty wet water year, especially looking back at last winter. 22.96 inches of rain fell in San Diego. We averaged 16.04 inches, so we were more than 6 inches above the norm, and that's a significant margin above. So that's been good news, as it certainly has been a spectacular help from our ongoing drought. That was a big deal, and now it is far, far less of a concern. In our forecast this week, the daily rhythm continues with morning clouds giving way to afternoon sunshine. And by the way, late this week, we'll have some bigger waves, rough surf expected in a few short days. Satellite radar, pretty quiet out there today. In fact, other parts of the West have been dealing with snow. Look at that, just east of Salt Lake City, the Wasatch seeing some snow, significant snow. There's already a report of 18 inches in part of the Colorado Rockies, but certainly not here. Clouds increase, 64 your overnight low tonight. And as we look east, you can see Ramona, 52. Borrego Springs, 60, but Mount Laguna, 46, and in Campo down to a chilly 41-degree low tonight. Pleasantly warm for us in Southern California in Tuesday's forecast. Not terribly hot, though. It's been a nice stretch, and we're going to hold on to this pleasant weather. 65 Mount Laguna, only 89 at Borrego Springs. Ramona around 77. San Diego 73. Just a delightful day once we get rid of those low clouds in the morning. As we look at the forecast details, we do have low clouds giving way to some sunshine in the coastal communities, and really we're talking about the same type of thing again on Wednesday. Eventually we'll see more sun and fewer morning clouds as we warm up into the low 80s on Friday and Saturday. Inland forecast, a cool 79 for your Tuesday. Low clouds give way to sunshine. We jump back up into the low to eventually mid-90s into Saturday's forecast, 96. For the mountain crowd, mid-60s Tuesday, back into the low 70s Friday, and mid-70s come Saturday. Sunshine, pleasant weather. It's a winter in the deserts as well, although we will heat back up to 102 on Saturday, a gradual incline. I'm Jeff Cornish for KPBS News.
The city of San Diego is searching for a new police chief. What issues should they tackle? What qualities should they have? Tell us what you think. The KPBS Listening Post will be in City Heights on Wednesday from noon until 2 in the shopping plaza at University and Fairmont Avenues. Share your thoughts at the KPBS Listening Post Wednesday. Gas-powered cars could be banned in California by the year 2040. That's the goal of some lawmakers who plan to introduce a bill next year that would ban the sale of internal combustion-powered cars after the year 2040. Advocates admit there's a major hurdle to overcome in terms of making clean energy cars affordable for the masses. But they say as car companies roll out more models and the technology becomes cheaper to make, the hurdle won't be so great. Right now, advocates say the real challenge is making Californians aware of how many incentives are available from the state and federal government if they buy a clean energy vehicle.
The state is helping to buy down the cost of leasing or purchasing electric vehicles. Consumers can get $2,500 if they purchase or lease a new electric vehicle. Even more if they purchase or lease a fuel cell vehicle.
There's also an effort underway to get all classes of vehicles, from cars to trucks to buses, electric powered. California would follow France, the United Kingdom, India, and China if it approved a future ban on gas and diesel powered vehicles. Driverless cars are not yet being used by San Diego drivers, but their common use isn't far away. KPBS editor Tom Fudge looks at what's going on in San Diego for testing driverless vehicles as planners and academics try to imagine a world where cars drive themselves.
A parking lot near the center of the Marine Corps Air Station Miramar is surrounded by barracks, home to some of the 3,000 Marines who live on base. Major Brandon Newell says this will also soon be a stop for a driverless shuttle bus.
The initial route starts at the barracks, which is where we're standing now, and it goes along the flight line, which is where most of the work is happening. So, your daily work during working hours. Then it would go over to the retail area before it goes to military housing, which is where families live, and then comes back over here to the barracks.
The Miramar Air Station is one of the places in San Diego County where driverless vehicles will soon be tested. Newell says a military base has some advantages when it comes to that.
For one, we're a controlled environment, so not anyone can get on the base. Secondly, we have low speed limits across the whole base. Third, we have a known and trainable populace.
He adds that the military command structure means you don't have to cut a lot of red tape to make something happen. What's happening in San Diego is the county is becoming a testing ground for automated driverless vehicles in a program that's coordinated by the U.S. Department of Transportation. Testing sites will range from very controlled environments like Miramar Air Station to the very unpredictable public streets of Chula Vista. UC San Diego will be doing its own testing at the start of 2018. Henrik Christensen is director of the Contextual Robotics Institute at UCSD.
So we will start by deploying, initially it will be golf carts, gradually it will be other kinds of vehicles that will be autonomous, driving around. And the first thing we'll do is we'll do autonomous mail delivery. So campus mail delivery will be driverless. In the beginning, we'll have a safety driver on board to make sure that we don't run into any of the students. But eventually, we will take out the safety drivers, and then it will do it.
How will driverless cars affect the cities of the future? We don't know. It just hasn't happened yet. But Christensen points out the ability of driverless cars to be in constant use means we'll probably need a lot less parking.
So in Atlanta right now, they're building a big parking structure, and they expect they will capitalize it over the next 30 years. Most of us predict that 15 years from now, most cars will be self-driving. So it's not clear we will have that parking need, because why would I want to pay whatever the daily rate is 15 years from now? Instead, I'm just going to say, pick me up again on Tuesday, and it will go wherever it needs to go.
San Diego's regional transportation agency, SANDAG, is a partner in creating the DOT Proving Ground. Ray Traynor is director of operations at SANDAG, and he says driverless cars will form a network of vehicles that communicate with each other. And that means their operation on the freeway will be much more efficient.
So, for example, today, you and I, as we drive down the freeway, we probably keep around 3 car lengths between our vehicles. Well, we've demonstrated back in 1997 with our automated highway system demonstration here in San Diego that you can move vehicles at a high rate of speed down a freeway spaced only 3 feet apart.
So maybe that means we don't need so many freeway lanes.
It starts to raise some questions about the need for the expansion of the freeway system.
The reliance on smart driverless cars means a diminishing reliance on not-so-smart human drivers. So, we hope, our streets will become much more safe. In a trend that started with Lyft and Uber, fleets of driverless cars are expected to become a service we'll order, not a product we own. Henrik Christensen imagines a range of driverless cars at his beck and call.
Wednesday night, you're going to the grocery store. I need a wreck that will take me to the cheapest possible way of getting to the grocery store and back. Saturday, I'm going to IKEA or someplace like that to buy furniture. I need now a truck. And Saturday night, I'm going on a hot date, and I want a Ferrari.
SANDAG's Ray Traynor says we've got to start planning for the onset of driverless cars.
One of the big questions transportation planners have raised is, with these highly autonomous vehicles, would it lead to more urban sprawl?
Whatever they do bring, driverless cars are coming. In fact, Christensen has a message for new parents.
Kids born today will never have to drive a car.
Tom Fudge, KPBS News.
A different kind of driving lesson is gaining traction in Michigan. Associated Press reporter Mike Householder says more than 500 people have learned to drive Henry Ford's Model T at a museum near Kalamazoo this year.
It doesn't start, run, or operate like the cars of today. That's what makes the Model T so much fun to drive.
Absolutely recommend this for everybody to do. It is just a ball.
Oh, pedals in this one are a little bit different.
Keith Mays recently learned how to drive Henry Ford's historic creation that established a mass market for automobiles.
First, I was terrified. I was absolutely terrified that I was going to break something, that somebody break something, but then, you realize that these things were built bulletproof.
The Gilmore Car Museum near Kalamazoo offers the one-day 4-hour class for $105.
Are you guys ready to drive?
The chance to sit behind an authentic Model T Ford built between 1908 and 1927. 12-year-old Alan Bennett is the youngest person ever to complete the course.
It was fun, really, because I only did like go-karts before, which are like little and...
Right there is a starter button, stomp on.
By their side, 92-year-old instructor Jim Brand.
They're old, like me.
Who fondly recalls owning 3 Model Ts in high school.
They were cheap. High school kids look for cheap cars.
Bennett and his classmates successfully operated the Tin Lizzies.
Did it pass? You did so far.
3 foot pedals, 1 hand lever, and 2 hand controls on the steering wheel. And negotiated the museum's 2.5 miles of paved roads. Their reward?
Alan Bennett.
A piece of paper.
Our youngest holds a world's record. The youngest ever.
And the experience of a lifetime. Mike Householder, Associated Press, Hickory Corners, Michigan.
You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us and have a great evening.